أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Excellency, Janab Sardar Mansoor Sahab, President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Excellency Shahryar Khan Afridi Sahab, Chairman Kashmir Committee, Haji Rafiq Pardesi Sahab, Chairman World Kashmir Forum, Honorable Sahib, Chairperson Jammu and Kashmir Solidarity Movement, Mr. Amir, President and CEO of Bank Islami, Maulana Bashir Ahmed Faruqi Sahib, Excellencies, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Today, we got together with an attempt to try to piece together what we should do and what we have not done. The Kashmir issue, most of the facts, I don't think I need to reiterate numerous facts and the multiple resolutions, the United Nations Security Council resolutions, the inter-sea agreements between Pakistan and India, all those are probably known to everyone, but with some reservations and some comments, I would probably be citing certain issues as to why and what we have not done in these agreements and the resolutions. Before proceeding further, let me give you two very basic issues. What is Kashmir? Do we not term Kashmir as the state of Jammu and Kashmir? The state of Jammu and Kashmir is a state which is administered, and I will emphasize on this very carefully because I will just come to that issue, why I call this. It is administered by India. And when we say administered, it is not a part of India. It cannot be a part of India. And that is what the Indian Constitution also says. The United Nations Charter, especially Chapter 7 of the Charter, needs to be looked into very carefully. And when we look at this carefully, we see the word which the United Nations has also defined in a separate resolution. And that word is aggression. Whether India is an aggressor or not, that also is important. And why I say this again is that whatever the United Nations Charter says is what is the law of the land and what is the law of the world. The United Nations Charter, once violated by any country, there is numerous provisions there whereby United Nations Security Council can and should take appropriate action, which they have not. I will not go into great detail because that would take hours for me to explain what I'm saying, but I will positively show why I have said what I have said just now. May I only remind this audience, and the wonderful audience that we have here, that it was India who in 1948 complained against Pakistan, which resulted into two very important resolutions. And those resolutions were the 38 and 39 of 1948, which called upon both the countries to abstain from entering into war and allow peace to be there. There should be no breach of peace. And it is this breach of peace which is the crucial term that has been used by the United Nations Charter. And when we say there is a breach of peace, I will put numerous questions on this, whether is there not a breach of peace as of today? Is there not a breach of peace in India occupying an administered territory? After the two resolutions, that is 38 and 39, the crucial resolution, that is the resolution 47 or 48, which was passed in April 1948, having been passed, it called upon India and not Pakistan to hold a plebiscite to move their forces away from Kashmir, to cause the administrator and appointee of the Secretary of the United Nations to literally take over Kashmir, which has not been done to date. Plebiscite, we know, has not been conducted, nor India intends to conduct the plebiscite. Let me take all of you to what we call the Indian Constitution, the infamous Article 70 and 35A, which has now been made redundant, making Kashmir de facto a union of India. When Kashmir had been made a union of India, whilst it was only administering the territory under the United Nations resolutions, which resolution, not only resolution 41, we come to 50, 48, 47, we come to 51 and numerous others. And so also in the Shimla Agreement, it is categorically stated the United Nations Charter will be followed. And when we say that the United Nations Charter will be followed in its letter and spirit, the Shimla Agreement does not take away the resolutions passed by the United Nations Security Council. And India, once it says that they should be settled by bilateral talks, maybe, but nowhere in the Shimla Agreement has it written that the United Nations resolutions have become redundant. They are not redundant. What happens once India chooses to remove from its constitution unilaterally, though in the Shimla Agreement it says any action that will be taken bilaterally by a joint resolution. India takes action unilaterally, therefore the agreement to intercede the two countries in fact have become void and is not liable to be acted upon under any circumstances. Thus, all the resolutions passed by the United Nations Security Council come into play. Again, though they were always there. And that, once they are there, then the issue of India acting in aggression is a very important aspect that we need to look into. But what is aggression? I will read only a small little portion of a resolution of the United Nations which defines aggression. This was a resolution adopted in 1974 by the Special Committee which defined aggression, and amongst many others, it says, any of the following acts, regardless of a declaration of war, shall, subject to and in accordance with the provisions of Article 2, qualify as an act of aggression. And amongst the many, Clause F reads, the action of a state in allowing its territory, which it has placed at the disposal of another state, to be used by that other state for perpetuating an act of aggression against a third state. As I said, Kashmir is stated to be a state which is not a part of India, and India used its power and authority through its military to take over physically the said state, making it a part of the Union. Thus it acted in aggression. Now when we say that it acted in aggression, then Article 4 of the same says, the act enumerated above are not exhaustive, and the Security Council may determine that other acts constitute aggression under the provision of their charter. It further says that no consideration, and this is extremely important, no consideration of whatever nature, whether political, whether economic, whether military, or otherwise, may serve as a justification for aggression. And a war or aggression is a crime against international peace. Aggression gives rise to international responsibility. Now, this is what the United Nations says. And when we talk of India having entered into such an aggression, there are numerous questions that we can put to the House here, and I will try to attempt and say how we can resolve this issue. One of the questions that I would put, has India not violated the international convention and laws? Has India not created a situation of breach of peace? Has India not violated the Simla Agreement and the Lahore Declaration? If India has violated the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council and the agreement to intercede the two countries, what is the effect? Now let me take, as I said earlier, the Simla Agreement. The same Simla Agreement actually is now redundant. It does not have any place as of now. Pakistan has and would never agree on India taking over by aggression this part of Kashmir, which is the state, India continues to issue domiciles and permissions to purchase property in the occupied Kashmir, which has resulted in what we call the breach of peace. And when we say there is a breach of peace, there is a de facto breach of peace. India violated the Pakistan airspace. That was again an aggression. That was attempting to cause Pakistan to react to that aggression of Pakistan very intelligently handled the situation to avert a possible war. And the professionalism of the Pakistan Air Force took down 2 aircrafts of the Indian Air Force, had one Indian pilot as their captain, an intelligent move again to return the pilot so as to reduce this tension, which is what Pakistan wants. And Pakistan wants peace. Peace not at the cost of Kashmir. Laws are there whereby Pakistan can also proceed to arm, and I say this with great confidence and on the basis of international law, that Pakistan can also proceed to arm the Kashmiris in situation where they are freedom fighters. They want freedom for themselves, but Pakistan has chosen diplomacy, which is probably a better solution. But further, we need to move ahead on the basis of the laws available, the Security Council resolutions, the United Nations Charter. And ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of further aggression, and I will come to the United Nations Charter also in a bit, but I must quote for everyone a quote from a speech from Ronald Reagan, the President of the United States, who said, "One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter." And when we talk of freedom fighter, we are talking of India trying to crush their wish of freedom through military means, through posting of armed forces, etc. I will take you now to to the United Nations Charter, and I would want to read only a portion of that charter. Article 73 of the Charter says, members of the United Nations which have to assume responsibility for administration of territories whose people have not yet attained full measure of self-government recognize the principle that the interest of the inhabitants of those territories are paramount. Probably, we have never cited or quoted this provision, ever. I have never at least heard of having anyone citing this provision. And further it says that except as sacred trust, the obligation to promote to the utmost within the system of international peace and security established by the present charter, the well-being of the inhabitants of these territories, and to this end, when we talk of administration of these territories, India was only administering those territories, and therefore this provision of Article 73 has been clearly violated by India. It further says, to ensure with due respect for the culture of the people concerned, their political, their economic, their social, their educational advancement, and their just treatment, and their protection against abuses. Has India not abused everything that has been stated here? And further it says, to develop a self-government, to take into account the political aspirations of the people, and to assist them in the progressive development of their free political institutions according to the particular circumstances of their territory and its people and their various stages of advancement. Has India not violated this provision? And then it says, to further international peace and security. Well, this is being violated on a daily basis. It further says to transmit regularly to the Secretary General for information purpose subject to such limitations as security and constitutional consideration may require statistical and other information of technical nature, etc. And unfortunately, and very unfortunately, this also has not been taken care of by the United Nations Security Council. The Security Council chooses to keep quiet on this issue. Whenever it is taken up, the issue is put on the sidelines. It is us who need to press the United Nations Security Council. We should move, and I would request Mr. Shahryar is sitting here. He is a wonderful and a person who really wants to move ahead, to move the Security Council, not only under this provision, but under Article 40 of the United Nations Security Council, under the Charter, and which says, in order to prevent aggravation of situation, the Security Council may, before making recommendations or deciding upon the measures provided for in Article 39. In Article 39, what does it say? The Security Council shall determine the existence of any threat to peace, breach of peace, or an act of aggression, and shall make recommendations to decide what measures shall be taken in accordance with Article 41 and 42. And Article 41 is not a joke. It is a very, very serious provision. And it says the Security Council may decide what measures not involving the use of armed forces may be employed. And it may call upon the members of the United Nations to apply such measures, and these include a complete or partial interruption in economic relationships, or rail or sea, air, postal, telegraph, radio and other means of communication, and severance of diplomatic relationships. This is Article 41, and Article 42 is even harsher. It says, should the Security Council consider the measures provided in Article 41 be inadequate or have proved inadequate, it may take such action by air, sea or land forces as may be necessary to maintain and restore international peace and security. Such is the emphasis of the United Nations to maintain security and peace, which India is violating on a daily basis. In the end, I would only try to make a few suggestions. I had much more to say, but I don't think it is appropriate for me to, but I put some very important issues for this Honorable House and the members at the podium. I would only request Mr. Shariat Fadidi Safedi, who's here, and also to the World Kashmir Forum, and I'll just read this because this is some important aspect. To take note of these facts, and the law as stated by me here, move the United Nations Security Council through an appropriate complaint in writing, which is a requirement, along with other details which probably has not been done to date, referring to the various provisions of the United Nations Charter, the international laws, and the United Nations Resolution on Human Rights, has also moved the International Court in its advisory jurisdiction, as was done in the case of Rohingya Muslims, where a very strong judgment against Myanmar was passed. Further, the Security Council should also be moved for them to have their resolutions implemented. Maybe or request Mr. Minister that it is utmost importance the issue of Kashmir be taken up through the important countries of the world and also through rolling ambassadors being appointed, being persons of credibility and having knowledge of the Kashmir dispute and who can present their Kashmir cause with its legal perspective to the world. May we further request you, sir, that foreign missions in important countries should also consist of Kashmir attaches who can propagate the same in those countries effectively. I thank you very much.